Feel like you've lost your art? Maybe you gave it up a long time ago. Maybe it's the season you're in. Maybe there was a lack of opportunities. Maybe it's your age. Maybe it's how you feel about how you look. But you're not alone and you're not broken. This episode is your permission slip to start again. Welcome to the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Artist podcast, where artists of all kinds come to fuel their passion, sharpen their skills, and thrive in their creative lives. I'm your host, Lara Bianca-Pilcher, life and creativity coach and fellow artist, here to support you on your artistic journey. Whether you're a performer, writer, visual artist, or any kind of artist, this is the space for real talk, practical advice, and inspiring stories. Subscribe and join us each week for more inspiration and actionable insights to fuel your artistry. Let's dive in and get inspired. Hey there, listeners. I'm Lara Bianca-Pilcher, life and creativity coach for dancers, actors, singers, writers, visual artists, any kind of artists. This is the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Artist podcast, where we talk about how to thrive in your craft and your life, even when things get hard, messy, or just plain unclear. I want to speak to the artist who hasn't made anything or something in a while. The one who's been quiet, maybe on purpose, maybe not. The one who feels shut down. The one that feels like they're on the outside looking in at everybody else's creativity and art, wondering if they're still allowed to call themselves an artist as you mindlessly scroll and see all of the beautiful things that other people have made. If that's you, this episode is a gentle reset and a strong reminder you're still in the story. Your book isn't finished. The book of your life, the story of your life, and you can begin again right from where you are, no matter what. I had a recent creativity and life coaching client who had taken a long break, not because she wanted to, but because of an injury, financial pressure, and life pulling her in a dozen different directions. She told me, I feel like a fraud. If I walk back into the studio, like I have no right to be there anymore. Another story, a writer in one of my groups admitted that every time he opened his laptop, shame crept in before his fingers even hit the keyboard because he hadn't written in months. He said, I'm scared that what I had is gone, so I'm avoiding it. And a singer that I know, gorgeous, expressive voice, was in the middle of a creative drought. When I asked what was stopping her, she said, it's been so long since I've just sung for joy. Caught up in the commercialization and the product of what she was doing, I don't even know how to sing for joy anymore. This is more common than we talk about as artists because we like to talk about the highlight reel, don't we? What we are doing, the work that we have got or booked or made or put out into the world. But friends, I want to name it. The shame of silence. The fear that a break equals the end. The fear that having kids equals the end. The fear that you haven't booked in 3 years equals the end. The fear that your book was rejected by 10 different people and now it's just sitting in a pile equals the end. This week I was on social media and I read a popular casting director's post like, tell me what's troubling you. Oh my goodness, I decided to read the comments because this is the space that I live in. And it was so depressing. People were like, I thought that this was my calling. I was wrong. There was just these statements of grief and brokenness. And I realized this pain point is so very real for so many of us that we feel like this creative thing that was in us that brought us energy and life is actually not worked out. And for whatever reason, you laid it down or it was laid down for you. Subconsciously, you still laid it down. But I want to talk about that in this episode. I want you to hear that breaks, for whatever reason, are not disqualifiers. They're part of the rhythm of the real, resilient, creative life. Neuroscience tells us that our identity is tied to behavior. So if you haven't practiced your art in a while, your brain starts to question, is this still who I am? And that's not a loss. It's just a disconnection. A reconnection doesn't require perfection. It requires consistency, small, meaningful action that rebuilds that identity loop in you. Now, I talked a little bit last week in the episode before this in the same spectrum of this episode topic. And this really continues from that. And that when I say when artists stop creating, even temporarily, many enter what psychologists call ruminative loops. We don't just stop, we spiral. And I'm talking emotionally. We say, I should be doing more. I should be booking more. And this applies both to the artist who, like I said in last week's episode, doesn't feel like an artist anymore because they haven't booked anything, but also to those of us who have laid it down and have let it sort of slide and it's no longer in our life. So we spiral. And we say things to ourselves like, I should be doing more. Other people didn't stop. Maybe I was never good in the first place. But here's the truth. Shame shuts down the creative brain. And you are born with a creative brain. And it's just part of you as a human being. And research shows that self-compassion, not guilt, is what reactivates motivation. Self-kindness, my friends. So if you're stuck, shaming yourself won't bring you back. Permission to be creative, to live a creative life, because it's your birthright and part of your human DNA, so to speak, that's what will bring you back. So I teach clients this all the time. Instead of waiting for a huge comeback, create a simple reset ritual. It could be as small as reading one page of a script, doing one stretch in your living room, recording one 10-second vocal warm-up, doodling on a sketch pad while your coffee brews. Instead of the huge comeback, do the small creative ritual. Tiny, tiny rituals are beautiful things for creative brains and creative minds. Just to say, I'm turning the key to my creative soul. I'm going to open the door with one simple, tiny act. Now, if you're a mum, or something in your health has stopped you, or whatever reason. I've had a client say, I literally can't sing anymore. I've lost my voice permanently. Well, that creativity in you can pivot. It's like creativity is a massive mansion and there's lots of different rooms, and each of those rooms you have a key to go into and explore. And for her, she couldn't sing anymore, and I was like, well, pivot that creativity into another room, whether that's writing or it's coloring or whatever it is. You'd be surprised what it does to your soul. We often get these fixed mindsets that this is the only door that I can be fulfilled in. And that is a very fixed mindset. It's not a growth mindset. It's not a flexible mindset that says, actually, I can find joy in other places. And I share this with you because this was me. I had a very fixed mindset that I must make it in this particular way in order to feel successful as an artist. And my creativity is pivoted in lots of different ways. I'm a greedy artist, so to speak. I love a lot of things. I dance, I choreograph, I've directed musicals, I write. I've got a book coming out, as you know, so I'm now an author. I sing, I've done musical theatre, I am essentially a performer. And now I focus more on film and TV and writing and coaching. But all of these expressions, including education, have been part of that creative mansion in my soul, and I've able to pivot into different rooms. And so that's my encouragement to you. The power for you is in repetition, not resolution. Small creative acts done with an intention rebuild both your identity and your momentum. If this is resonating and you're nodding your head and even tearing up a little, know this. You're not alone, and I've made something that can really help. If you haven't already got this, it's a totally free guide called Stuck in a Creative Rut. It'll give you 3 actionable, compassionate steps to help you reset your rhythm, reconnect your identity, and start creating without guilt or overwhelm. You can download it at larabiancapilcher.com. And if you're ready for something more, maybe you've already got this freebie. It's a little bit more structured. My 7-day course, Reignite Your Creativity, is available now for just $37. Why is it so cheap? And it's full of coaching and insight and jam-packed with audio teachings and notes and handouts and things to fill in and do reflective creative journaling. It's because I want you to be able to afford it. So it is at this low price. I don't know if it will be forever, but please grab that. That's on my website under larabiancapilcher.com and then head to courses. It's self-paced, pressure-free, and packed with bite-sized momentum builders to help you re-enter your art, your creativity with joy. You can also head to my social media and you'll find it there. There's links to it, particularly on Instagram. Now, let's ground this in reality. You don't need to earn your way back into creativity. You don't need to prove yourself. You don't need a perfect re-entry. You don't need applause or proof or permission from anyone else. None of those gatekeepers, not yourself. You're still an artist. Even if your work hasn't been seen or published or produced or put out there or accepted, even by yourself. Even if your voice feels rusty and you feel like I can't sing anymore. Even if your weight doesn't feel like it suits showing up. That's so not true, guys. There is an audience for every kind of artist, no matter what your age. I've said this before, but years ago I started doing a dance class with ladies. I think I was in my 20s and they were in their 40s. And at that point, they'd already been dancing since probably many of them were younger, and they just kept the class going. Well, it's been years. I'm talking 20 years since I was doing that class, maybe more like 15. These ladies, a lot of them are now in their 70s. They're still dancing. And from that class, they got a grant from the government and they started a beautiful company for older dancers, and they put work on stage. There is an audience for every age. You sometimes need to create it. You sometimes need to find it. And if it encourages you, that's Momentum Dance. And they're in Perth, Western Australia, where I grew up. So I'm telling you a real story. I really do believe this. There is somebody that your work will bless and resonate with. So even if your work hasn't been seen, even if your voice feels rusty, even if your body feels rusty, even if you return and it's awkward and it's hesitant or unrecognizable. Oh my gosh, I know this feeling as a dancer. At first, it's like, gosh, my body just doesn't feel like my own. Come back scared. Come back quietly. Come back in a whisper. But let your soul come back in that whisper. But come back, because the artist in you is still alive. Your creativity really matters, waiting to meet you right where you are, not where you were, not where you should be, but here now. So this week, for a Creative Spark Challenge, I want you to choose one thing that reconnects you to your art. Not because it's a task or a to-do list or something you need to put in your schedule on top of the millions of other things, but because it's a breadcrumb back to your creative self. Now, this applies to pros as well, professionals, because many professionals aren't booking or haven't booked work. There's a huge majority, for example, of actors. So this matters for you too. So don't tune out, because it's a breadcrumb back to your creative self. One page, one note, one movement. Start there. Thank you, listeners, for spending time with me today. This episode was personal, not just for you, but for so many artists I've worked with who have had to refine themselves after a season of silence. Remember, breaks don't cancel your identity. Not booking doesn't mean that you weren't called to it. It just means that maybe there's a different room in the creative mansion for you. Quiet doesn't mean you've quit. And starting again doesn't make you behind. It makes you brave. Oh my gosh. Audacious Artistry is the name of the book that is coming out that I have written. I don't think I've shared that before, so here's a first on this podcast. You need to be brave to show up with your creativity. Sometimes, yes, it's fine. It's just for you. I talk to a lot of people where art is at the forefront of their life, and that takes bravery when you're showing others your work. So if this helped, please go grab the free guide by all means, larabiancapilcher.com. You'll find it at the top there, or go to freebies, or share this episode with a fellow artist who you really know needs a gentle nudge to come back home to their art again. Next week, we're going to be digging into something I hear a lot from artists. We're going to talk about burnout and how it's not the end. It's actually the beginning. And in that place, how you can go find yourself again. It's a beautiful, beautiful journey. Actually, I've been in burnout a couple of different times in my life. Yep, we're going to go there. We're going to go deep with that one. Until then, take care, start again, and know I'm in your corner and I'm with you on the journey, friends. Until next time, bye for now. P.S. If you're still listening at this point and you are on this podcast a lot, whatever platform you're on, would you do me a favor? Just head to the stars and hit the 5-star review, leave a comment. I love to read those. It really encourages me and it helps the algorithm. Share this with somebody. And as always, you can do one-on-one coaching with me if you need a bit more support. That's at larabiancapilcher.com, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now. Thank you for tuning in to the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Artist podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss an inspiring conversation or actionable insight. You can read the show notes and learn more at larabiancapilcher.com. And be sure to share this episode with fellow artists who could use a little extra inspiration. Until next time, keep creating, stay audacious, and remember, your artistry matters.